Welcome to the creative brain of Dean Hawk. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and equipped to become a better ministry leader.
Hey, welcome to this edition of the Dean Hawk Leadership Podcast. We're in our special series on 40 years of wisdom, of ministry wisdom. And I encourage you to go back and listen to the previous parts. We've talked about raising kids and family. We've talked about marriage. We've talked about leadership and self-care. This month we are talking about money matters. And there are lots of areas that we could cover. Kim and I did a podcast back in March where we got under the hood of the local church and budgets and all that. And it's called Stop the Steal. And you can go back and check that out. But I just want to hit some highlights of some big ideas that I have learned, that I have seen, and just want to share those wisdom nuggets with you. First and foremost, here's what I want to begin with. Financial issues are black and white. Never even go into the gray zones. It's important that we are staying, as we're working with donated funds, as we're representing the kingdom of heaven, it is crucial that you and I are functioning with integrity, with accountability, with character when we're handling these important funds. And basically, it's kingdom funds that have been donated by the sacrifices of our people. And so I always challenge my staff that when we're making a purchase that, it can become so easy just to go push and click on Amazon and buy it. But does Amazon really have the best price on it? That we become frivolous in our spending and not being faithful to get the most out of every dollar, out of every penny that has been donated. And so that means that we might not get it in 2 days, but it might take 5 days and we can save $50. Save $50. I challenge my staff to think ahead. Don't order last minute. I would tell you that is one of the greatest misuse of funds is rush orders. And we've all been there, and yes, we have made rush orders, but our goal is to avoid them when we can. To think ahead so that we are using God's funds and resources to get the maximum amount of return from what has been given to us. Does that make sense? And so it's important that we must walk with integrity and accountability, that as the pastor of this church, that every expense that Kim and I mentioned in the last one, every expense that Kim and I, that we make must be signed off on a monthly basis and reviewed by the treasurer of our board of directors, that they see and know, and they ask, what was this for? Because we all have seen and known, and potentially somebody listening, you're one of those, that you have a church card. I know of firsthand of multiple churches, firsthand knowledge of multiple churches that the pastor spends money, free will. No one knows how the money is spent. No one can verify. No one reviews the credit card. No one has access to the accounts. No one can review where is the money being spent. And I'm going to tell you that is absolutely, positively wrong. No one gets to spend money without having accountability and review. And if that is what the situation you're in, repent and change your ways now. And if you say, well, we do some review, but not full, make sure that you are walking with your finances in open view. The scripture teaches us to live as in the day, not in the night. It's in the secret place. It's in the darkness that where sin happens. It's where not the greatest decisions are made. So when I'm ever purchasing and how do I feel about making this purchase or spending money there, I ask myself this question. If a church member was standing beside me and they see that I'm using the church card, would they question, why am I using church funds to make this purchase? We all know that we have a lot of influence in our position, and we can sway things. Well, I needed that. I needed that for the church. I needed that for my job and position. I'm just challenging each and every one of us to function in the black and the white, staying where we need to be in the obviously clear, the white area of known and public and transparency in how we live and how we function and how we spend. The second big idea this morning, this afternoon, whenever you are listening to this, is pastors lead their churches financially based upon their personal financial practices and values. Show me a pastor who lives paycheck to paycheck, is in debt, he spends credit card, he buys things he buys cars on time, he buys this on time, he's got multiple, he's in debt. I will show you a church that is in debt. I will show you a church that lives from offering to offering, that they have no reserve account, they have no reserve fund. Why? Because the pastor doesn't. Now, I'm not wanting anybody to feel guilty or condemned, but pastors and leaders, how can we lead people to an area where we don't live ourselves? Our heart and our goal is to lead people to financial freedom, to lead them out of the bondage of debt and to the freedom that they're no longer enslaved to the debtor, but they are living financially free to give and to serve God with the finances and resources that they have. And if we are not living there, pastors and church leaders, then we cannot expect our people to. And so Kim and I have lived and functioned by the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University practices. We have lived those before we ever heard of Dave Ramsey. Why? Because Kim's parents lived by those standards, and we learned from them, and they spoke into our lives, and we saw the fruit of their lives. And so, number one, pastors, you should take Financial Peace University. We offer it continually. It is a class that continually, summer, fall, winter, spring, we are continually offering that class and helping get people set free from the bondages of debt. And then when we live by those practices, when we lead in that way, we're going to lead. When we live that way personally, we're going to live that way as we lead our organization. A Gallup poll found that only 1/3 of Americans, 32%, maintain a household budget. Well, if that is true for Americans, I'm going to tell you, probably, most likely, 1/3 of American pastors lead their church with an actual budget because they themselves, 1/3, live by an actual budget. And so I want to challenge you to write out, change your personal ways, live by a financial budget, live within your means. But then I want to encourage you to get someone at the helm of your finances. And if that's not you, if you're not good with it, you need to find someone that you can trust. Find someone that has accountability over and around them to verify how they are spending funds and how those funds are being distributed. We've all heard of the church employee that embezzles money, was mishandling finances, and so there has to be the checks and balances that are there. Kim and I talked about that previously. We don't need to go there. But here's what I would say. It's crucial, pastors, that we live by those principles, that we only make purchases with cash. You say, well, do you use a church corporate card? Yes, and we pay it off every single month. We only put on that card what has been approved by the budget, what has been approved by our financial department to make a purchase. The only thing we hold a mortgage on is and have a loan on is our debt and our mortgage. If we need new chairs, we don't buy them on time. If we need a new sound system, we don't pay for it over the next 18 months. We save, and when we have the cash, that's when we make the purchase. That is being a good steward and handling things well. And I know it can be hard because there are things we need, there's things that we have to have. And we're facing this fall, we're looking at presenting to our church a financial campaign to do some renovation in our children's ministry. And we are going to tell them, we are not starting, we are not hitting the launch button until we have the finances in hand, and that their giving makes a difference. And then here is a huge one. Number 3, as we have had people come to our church, we have had people choose our church solely because of this commitment to be transparent with the church finances. And here's what we do. Here is the winner chicken dinner. Every February, once we've tabulated our previous year's income, expenses, got our financial report together, got our new budget is set and ready to run, about the first or second Sunday of February, every single year for the last 17 years we have existed, we release, and if you're watching on video, you can see it. I've got one here. We release this is our 2020 annual report. I think this is still on rockfamilychurch.com somewhere. I don't know where. I didn't look before the podcast started. You can download a digital copy. We do a high-end level magazine looking, if you're listening to this, kind of report that we give out and hand out to every single person. We put this in our guest bag our gift bag that we're giving to new people coming to the church, saying, hey, you're interested in our church? Here's our financial report. Here's how many people were born again. Here's how much money we spent. Here's how much money we spent on salaries. Here's how much we gave to missions projects. Here's how much we spent on insurance. Here's how much we spent on office supplies. And we give a financial breakdown of our income, of our giving, of our expenses, so that people can see and know, where is the money? Show me the money. And we have found that investors are more likely to invest when they know there is transparency and accountability. The number of church Christians that have come to our church and said, I have gone to a church for 10 years and they never once told how much comes in. They are clueless to what the annual income is. They are clueless how much is given to missions. They are clueless on where the money goes, but they just keep saying, give, help support the vision, but release zero information about it. And in my 40 years, I guess I get to be opinionated. I believe that is wrong. And what I'm going to ask any pastor who doesn't show the finances is, what are you hiding? What are you concealing? What don't you want people to know? Well, someone says, well, if they see how well we're doing, then they won't want to give. Bah humbug. The more they see that you are being a good steward with the money, I'm going to tell you, your money people will appreciate it. Maybe your tippers, your people that give a 10 or a 5 or a 20 will go, whoa, they got so much money, I don't have to give. You might lose a tipper or two, but your investors, your tithers, your people that sacrificially give of their first fruits to the church, I promise you, people, I promise you, leaders, be transparent and let them know. When they see that we have, $300 and some odd $1,000 in our reserve account, and that is our emergency reserve account in case of a pandemic. And here's what happened, church. I always wondered, we don't get hurricanes here. Our church is in the middle of the city, so a fire isn't going to take us out. If we get a snowstorm and blizzard, guess what? It might shut us down for a day, a week, or whatever. But the worst thing that could happen is if our building burned down, but we have insurance to replace it. But here's why we have the emergency reserve fund. And I never saw it coming. But in March of 2020, when our entire world shut down, businesses shut down, churches shut down, and my staff looked with big eyes, am I going to get a paycheck? And I released an email and a video call to all of them that said, this is why we have our emergency reserve fund. You are going to receive your paycheck. We are going to walk through this pandemic. We don't know how long we're going to be shut down. We don't know if people are going to continue to give or not. But I'm telling you, here is the amount we have in our reserve fund, and I'm telling you that you can sleep tonight because your paycheck will be there every 1st and 15th and 30th of the month. You're getting your paycheck. And so I'm telling you, this report is a winner, and just letting your people have confidence in where the money is going. Number 4, never use your position as a leader for personal influence or for personal business. Now, a lot of pastors are live a dual career life. That they have a tent making business, as Paul did. They have a business over here that supports them. The church maybe gives them no salary or a part-time salary, but it's not enough to support them. And so they have a side business. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Fully support that. Here is the line that I would say is important to follow. That we have been entrusted as leaders to lead, feed, nurture, and tend to the flock of sheep that God has given to us. And all too often, over the last 40 years, I have seen pastors use their God-given influence as a pastor to push their personal multi-level marketing schemes, businesses for personal gain. And I know that many pastors have a side business. Maybe you're a plumber, a carpenter, maybe you're an insurance salesman, whatever that might be. Great, praise God. Maybe you're in real estate. Here's what I'm saying. Never use your platform time that God has given you to advertise your business. Sure, if someone comes up and says, Pastor, I noticed that you're not in the office. Well, I'm working my other job. I work real estate. Oh, you do? Yes, I'm a realtor. Oh, if I wanted to sell my house, could you help me? Sure, I could. But I'm not going to use my platform to say, hey, if any of you need a realtor, guess who? I'm your guy. It's muddying the waters of our role. Are you going to be my realtor? Are you going to be a promoter of your business? Or are you going to be my pastor? And when I look back in the 90s, a lot of you that have been around will remember what the name of the company and what happened. But I remember back about 20-ish plus years ago, that there was a multi-level marketing that went rampant through the Christian church, went rampant among pastors, and pastors were using their Sunday morning service time to sign up people in their downline, to sign up people in and to become a part of this business. I emphatically believe that is wrong, to mix secular business with the God and kingdom purpose business of reaching the lost, teaching them the word, and feeding them. If anything, it sounds a lot to me like the money changers in the church that Jesus said, you're using this temple for personal gain, get out of here. And so I'm challenging you, live above board, use your leadership, God-given leadership as God has designed you to use that, and use it for kingdom purpose and kingdom mindset. Number 5, use caution. Please use caution. If you've been in ministry, you've probably been burned in this arena. Use caution when utilizing contractors from within the church family for your personal needs or church projects. We've all had that person when we announce a church project. Hey, I'm a sheetrocker. Hey, I'm an electrician. Hey, I'd love to help the church get a good deal. I'm not saying not use them. And I'm saying there can be some beautiful expressions of generosity and giving, of people giving their time and their talents and their abilities to save the church money, or potentially save you as a pastor money. But just be prepared, if you do that, that there's going to be a price to pay. That when Kim and I had a plumbing issue, and something came up, and a person came up and said, I can help you out with that plumbing issue. I think maybe in a sermon I was just telling a human story of the situation and what had happened, and we got to get that taken care of. I wasn't even trying to get someone in the church. Guy comes up and says, hey, I'm a plumber. I can come help take care of you. Here's what I did ask. I said, how much are you an hour? And he said, oh, don't worry about that. No, how much are you an hour? And he gave me his hour figure. How long do you think that'll take? He said, oh, just an hour or two. I said, great, come on out. Come and fix me. 4 hours later, 5, I'm like, hey, dude, he couldn't figure it out. He couldn't resolve the issue. And I had to go, hey, time out. You're done. I'm going to pay you for what I owe you. But I end up paying, I think it was 5 hours of labor for an unresolved situation because he's a member in the church. I'm not going to stick him. I'm not going to say, hey, you didn't fix it. I'm not paying you. It just can get very, very awkward. And so we hired a contractor for a very, very, very large project in our church, over $1 million project in our church. And his company was going to be the lead anchor. And bottom line, here's sadly what happened and took place, is we paid him, wrote the check, have the account that we paid him in full, and he chose to not pay multiple subcontractors. And so here's what happened. I know it could have happened with a non-member just as well as a member. I'm just telling you what happened. He didn't pay. And then those contractors are coming and saying, hey, you owe us money. And we said, no, we've paid who hired you. They owe you money. We had another company take legal action against us because they weren't paid. And we had to lawyer up and say, no, here's the documentation. We paid the company that hired you. And that was probably 2-3 years ago. And last month, my wife was in court testifying in a lawsuit of one of those companies suing the company that we had hired and fully paid, that had some issues and financial issues and some embezzlement and so forth by one of their executives. But she had to go and testify that we had paid in full and helping resolve that issue. Number 6, record and document everything in writing to protect you, the church, your staff, and your members. And keep all contracts digital, hard copies, digital copies as well. But here's something, pastors, that I didn't do to the fullest extent. I hired, this was years and years ago, nobody recent, nothing current in the last 10 years, so I feel free in sharing the story. I hired an employee. I was moving them from another state to join our team. And they had a house to sell. At the current time, the housing market was soft and bad. And I said to them, had a member in the church that had a home here that they offered at a very low price for this family to live in, all utilities. I said, tell you what, we will cover this portion here. We will cover that for 90 days. And we'll cover your rent here so that you can go ahead and move and you can get your house sold in the other state. But that way, you're not on any money. You're actually making more for us than you were where you were. You can keep paying your mortgage and you can get your house sold. Well, coming up on to 30 days, his house hadn't sold. So I met with our board. I said, board, do we want to extend this and go another 90 days? Coming up on the end of the first 90, do you want to go another 90 days? They agreed, yes, we're doing a good job here. And we extended another 90 days. Hey, the board has approved for you to have another 90 days. came up to 180 days. House still hadn't sold. Market is tough. And we extended, long story short, we extended and paid for their rent here for 1 full year. At the 9-month mark, I said to that employee, I said, you are on your last and final 90 days. Come the end of this 90 days, the board is unanimous, and we are not going to pay your rent here. It's up to you. You've had a year to sell your house. You need to lower your price. You need to do what you need to do there. Do you understand? Yes. And at the end of the full year, he came back at me, caused turmoil within the church, that we agreed that we would pay his rent here until his house sold. I said that was never said or spoken of, and the only thing I had in writing was my board minutes of that we approved to cover him for the first 90 days, the second 90 days. What I wish I had done with every new employee is had them fill out basically a signed agreement and contract. You're coming for this amount of money. These are the benefits and insurance that we are going to cover. Share this with your wife. I'm going to sign it. You're going to sign it. We each have a copy, both hard copy and digital copy, so that there can be no misunderstandings about how or why you came and what you agreed to come and accept this job. So that became our standard practice the last 10, 15 years, is being very clear and having written documentation that records employees' salaries and benefits. Number 7, it's crucial that the entire staff and team unites in faith for the budget to be met. I have found all too often that as a staff member, I didn't feel the burden. And until my pastor came and said this very statement, hey, we all got to believe God for the budget here. And so what we have done is, let me just give you an example. Our offerings are more than that, but I just don't want to muddy the waters. Let's just say that your weekly offerings at your church are $10,000 average per week. Okay? That's how much comes in. $520,000 a year is your annual budget. You know what? That's a fact. So we're going to challenge our lead team, volunteer team, our board, our elders, all of our leadership. We are going to challenge them to pray in agreement in faith for an increase in finances. And so if we are seeing $10,000 a week come in, as a leadership team, we are now believing God for $15,000 to come in per week. And we stay on that. And once we start hitting 14, 15, 16, and we're bouncing around that 15, we would then say, you know what? Praise God, we're seeing the fruit of that. That's a fact. Now we're going to use our faith and we're going to believe God for $20,000 a week. I've broken it down that way so that it's in a weekly bite size. But then if I'm saying to our staff, let's believe God for $50,000, well, median income in Colorado Springs is $54,000. Well, I'm asking them to believe for their annual salary. So then how I broke it down easier for my staff to be a part of that is I broke it down in our all team huddle, when we have about 18, 19 of our staff come together, I said, can you believe God for $1,000? Could you believe God for $1,000? I don't want you to have $20,000 faith, $30,000. I just need each of you to believe God for $1,000. Could someone else believe for $5,000? And brought it down to bite-sized faith. And then here's a big thing that has helped us financially in our income is in our drop-down menu of when you can give to rockfamilychurch.com. We have offered every opportunity for people to give. You can give to Rock Kids. You can give to our Dare to Care and missions funds. You can give to our youth ministry. You can give to, I don't remember all of the areas, our building fund, all of the areas that are there. Why do you offer all of those? Because your tithers are going to tithe. They're going to give. But a lot of people are project oriented, or they're passionate about missions, and they want to give to where they know their money is going to. So they are more inclined to give when they can see a direct return on where their money has gone. And so what we have found is it just helps the spirit of generosity and helps those who only give periodically or only give towards projects for them to be included in the generosity. And lastly, we as a church are committed to give 10% of our annual income away to sow it into local, national, and international missions. We invest heavily in ministries and organizations here in our community. We invest heavily in helping families and individual needs and community needs and helping the low income in various ways, shapes, and forms. Then we give nationally to several organizations and helping plant churches around the country. And then we have our missionaries in multiple different nations that we are heavy supporters and contributors to. So hope that has helped you out. 40 years of ministry wisdom on money matters. I want to encourage you to check out deanhawk.com. We have a brand new series that is just being released, and encourage you to check that out. All of the sermon notes, outlines, PowerPoint, everything that is needed, handouts is there for you to download free. Take my sermons, make them better, change them, improve them, do whatever you need. I just want to give you the tools so that you can have something, a place to start, or if you are in that dual role of serving, in that dual role of having a secular career alongside your ministry career and your study hours, I want to help you get you down the road with your study hours. We love you guys. God bless you. We will be back on October 1st with a special edition of 40 Years of Ministry Wisdom. We'll see you then.
Thank you for joining us today. For a free sermon series and teaching outlines by Pastor Dean, visit us at deanhawk.com. Be sure and join us next month as we continue our growth on leadership.